and welcome to another episode of Calculators. Today we will be diving into how calculators numerically compute integrals and derivatives, and as always, we'll be coding a version of our own. So to code an integral calculator, we first have to understand what an integral really is. So as many of you may know, an integral is a sum of the areas of infinitesimally thin rectangles, or the area under the graph of a function. However, the reason it's different from sigma is that sigma is discrete, while an integral is continuous. So, what do these words actually mean? Well, if we have a function f that we're integrating from a to b, let's first graph this function to see how we can approximate the integral. So here we have some curve, and we can approximate the area under the curve by splitting it up into these rectangle slices. And of course, this will be a rough approximation because of these little bits that are not actually parts of the integral. But for now, let's go with this. So we know easily how to find the area of a rectangle. It'll just be the base, which is dx, a tiny change in x, times the height, which will be f of x, the value of the function at the respective x. So again, right now this is a discrete sum of rectangles. However, the whole point of calculus is that we're approaching something. And this is what continuous really means, because as dx gets smaller and smaller and smaller, we get a more and more precise approximation of the integral. So eventually, it'll be really, really thinly sliced. So now that we understand what an integral truly is, we can use this knowledge to rewrite an integral in a discrete way, in a way that our calculator can understand. So if we have integral from a to b of f of x dx, then this will of course equal to sigma of something. And the first thing we should do here is change dx to some set value, like h, because our calculator can't understand the concept of dx approaching something. It can only understand a set value, which will make very, very small so that we can have a decent approximation. Okay, so now that we have that down, let's start making our summation bounds. So it'll be from n equals 0, and it's helpful to visualize always with a graph. So it'll be sigma from n equals 0 to b minus a over h. Well, why is this? Well, if we have a and b, this will be the length of the interval b minus a. And then this interval will be split up into a lot of tiny dx's, or a lot of tiny h's. So if we divide the length of the interval by the length of one little dx or one little h, then we'll get the number of h's, or the number of rectangles that we're adding up, which is exactly what we need. And the lower bound is just 0, so we don't have to worry about that. So next, let's see what we're adding up. We'll be adding up f of n times h plus a. So why is this? So again, let's visualize with a graph. So n times h will look like 0 times h, then 1 times h, then 2 times h, then 3 times h, and so on. So we're going in intervals of h, which is exactly what we need for our rectangles. And then we have to add a to that because all of this is shifted by a. And then we'll just take the value of the function at that point. And so this will give us the height of each of our rectangles. And then, of course, we'll multiply this by h, which will be the base of each of our rectangles. And voila! We have rewritten a continuous integral as a discrete sum that our calculator can easily understand and which we can use in our code. So here's what this looks like on a graph. So here we have the function that we're integrating, shown in black. It's just some polynomial. And then here is the integral of the function, shown in red. This is the actual continuous integral. Then here we have, shown in blue, our discrete version. And you can see it lines up perfectly with the red line because our h is so small that it's an almost perfect approximation. So now let's talk about derivatives. So as almost anyone knows, if we have a function f that we're differentiating at point x, then the derivative will be df over dx, or a tiny change in f over a tiny change in x. And what this equates to geometrically is the slope of a line that's tangent to the graph at point x. And to get the slope of a line, you do the rise over the run. So that'll be rise df over run dx. And again, this is only a rough approximation because we're still on the curve. But again, just like with the integral, the whole point of calculus is that we're approaching something. So as our dx gets smaller and smaller, and the df consequently also gets smaller and smaller, our approximation of the slope of this line gets better and better and better. That is the whole idea behind these principles. So, using this knowledge, we can understand the first principle of derivatives, which is limit, as h or dx goes to 0, of f of x plus h, where x is the point that we're differentiating at, minus f of x over h. But the only thing is, our calculator can't understand the limit. It can't understand approaching something. So we'll just have to set h to be a very small value. And then we can get rid of this limit. And the reason this formula works is because, of course, this is our dx. And then this is our df. Because if you have the dx and the df, and then our function going along here, then the df will be the value of the function at x plus dx minus the value of the function at x. And so this is where this part comes from. And so now that we understand this principle, we can code a derivative calculator. So first things first, as always, we have no imports. And of course, we have to ask the user for what function they wish to integrate or differentiate. But that's not the most important part of our calculator. So for now, we'll just define f of x as returning x, and then later we'll code this part of the calculator. So now first things first, we want to define the h variable. So it's actually approaching 0. It's supposed to be a limit, and that's more mathematically correct. However, again, our calculator doesn't understand limits, so instead of that, we'll be using a set value of h. So now, let's ask the user for whether they want to integrate or differentiate. And now, if operation equals option 1, elif operation equals option 2. So in the case of option 1, integration, First, we have to get our a and b, our lower bound and our upper bound. And now we have to deal with our summation bounds for our discrete sum. So our lower bound is just 0. But what we care about is the upper bound, which will contain in the length variable. So it'll be in accordance with the formula b minus a over h. The only difference is that we'll have to round this, and I'll explain why in just a moment. And then we'll have our integral variable, which at the start will be set to 0. So now, to do what the sigma does, we'll have to make a for loop. And we'll do it looping around length number of times, because that is our summation bound. So that's why we have to round length, because otherwise we'll be looping around a decimal number of times, which of course is impossible. So for I in range length, we're going to add to our integral in accordance with the formula. So we'll add f of I times h. Here our I acts as the n, plus a, and all of this times h. And finally, we will print the integral. For the derivative, it's a bit simpler. First, we get the point of differentiation. So we'll say point equals float input. And then we'll make our derivative variable. No for loops needed here. We'll just use the first principle definition, just with a set h. Finally, we'll say the derivative is about derivative. So now we let the user input functions, and usually they just type in the function they want, but that would require the use of simpy, and that's an import, so we don't allow that. So instead, what we do is we give them an option for 3 categories of functions. So the first is polynomial. The second is trig. And the third is just miscellaneous. And then we say if option 1, we'll ask them for the degree of the polynomial. Then we'll make a list of all the coefficients. And then we'll go for I in range degree. We'll ask them for the coefficient of each term. And then we'll add that to our list of coefficients. And then we'll ask them for the constant. And now we can define the function. So first we'll have our output variable, and then we'll say for I in range the length of the coefficients list. We'll add coefficients at I times x to the power of length coefficients minus I. And that'll allow us to add up each term in the polynomial. And then it will return the output variable plus the constant. Next, we'll paste in our homemade trig functions, and we'll say if option 2, we'll note about approximating pi, and then we'll give them a choice between 3 things: a sum of sines and cosines, 2 other normal functions, and 3 hyperbolic functions. And once we're done with that, we'll say if choice equals 1, we'll ask them for the number of sines. We'll ask them for the number of cosines. And then we'll print the form, which is a times sine of omega. This is the Python code for omega, times x plus phi, where a is the amplitude, omega is the frequency, and phi is the phase. And then we'll make a sine amplitude list, a sine frequency list, and a sine phase list, and we'll do the same thing for cosine. Then we'll say for and range the number of sines. We'll ask them for the amplitude of one of the sine waves. We'll ask them for the frequency of the same sine wave. And we'll ask them for the phase. And then we'll add those to their respective lists. And then we'll do a similar thing for cosine. And finally, we'll define our function. We'll make an output variable again. And then we'll say for I and range sine number. We'll add sine amplitude at I, so that amplitude with the frequency of the same wave times x, and the phase of the same wave. And then we'll do a similar thing for cosine. And finally, we'll return the output. And in the second case, where they choose other normal functions, we just ask them for which function they want, and then define the respective function. And then for hyperbolic functions, it's basically the same thing. And finally, we give them the option of miscellaneous functions, which is 4 different functions. The first is sigmoid. The second is reciprocal, 1 over x. The third is exponential. And the fourth is absolute value. And then we'll just define those, call those, and integrate or differentiate them. So now let's run our code. Here it gives us 3 options: polynomial, trig, and miscellaneous. Let's try polynomial first. It asks us for the degree, for example 4, and then we put in the coefficients and the constant. And it asks whether we want to take the integral or the derivative, for example the integral, lower integration bound and upper bound, and then it gives us the integral. It could also handle trig functions. Let's try a sum of sines and cosines. 1 sine, 0 cosines, and 1 amplitude, 1 frequency, and 0 phase. Let's take the derivative and at 0. And it's very close to 1. And finally, let's try miscellaneous. Let's use exponential. The coefficient will just be 1, and the constant will be 0. And the coefficient of the exponent will also be 1. Let's take the integral again this time. The lower integration bound will be 5, and the upper bound will be 10. And it gives us the integral. So, thank you so much for watching. Please apply a force vector to the like and subscribe buttons, and see you next time.